the sense that I do not want only to learn for my own, but also to share, to help my country.
ទោះបីជាដូនជីខ្មែរមានភាពទន់ខ្សោយយ៉ាងណាក៏ដោយក៏ចំពោះខ្លួនខ្ញុំផ្ទាល់ក៏មានការប្រឹងប្រែងតស៊ូអត់ធន់ដើម្បីនឹងខំរៀនតទៅទៀតដើម្បីបន្តចំណេះវិជ្ជាឲ្យបានចេះដឹងហើយនឹងបានផ្សព្វផ្សាយដល់ដូនជីនានាតទៅទៀតសូមបញ្ចប់
We are very weak, we are still very weak, but we are now trying to lay the groundwork for the future, and we hope to get some support. But we are focusing mainly on our own energy and our own resources. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think we have time for one more question which can be addressed to our speakers today or to the nuns. One more question. Is there anyone who would like to ask a question?
Greetings and aloha to you, my sisters. Thank you for being here this afternoon. Let me begin by saying that my topic is about women. And I want to start by saying that all women are sisters. We are sisters joining together to transform and to create a world of nonviolence and a world filled with love. So this afternoon, I would like to talk about what that means for us in this day, in this age of violence as we move on into a new century. But let me first explain that I am Luan Ha'aheo Guanson, coming from an occupied country, Hawaii, and as a native person. So when I speak about the need for peace and nonviolence in the world, I'm speaking from a very practical perspective and talk about the need to bring women together for the welfare as well as for our healing and reconciliation. So let me begin by talking to you briefly about 4 things this afternoon. I first would like to cover some of the threats that are affecting the well-being, particularly of women, and then to talk about women's contributions in the nonviolent alternatives. And then thirdly, for the need for unity and creativity. And then lastly, about women's leadership in a nonviolent social change. So let me begin first of all in a prayerful tone by saying that under the loving kindness and care of the Buddha, each believer of religion in the world transcends the differences of religions, race, and nationality, and that discards small differences and unite in oneness to discuss sincerely how to annihilate strife from the earth, how to reconstruct a world without arms, and how to build for the welfare and peace of all humankind so that never-ending light and happiness can be obtained in the world of the future. Then let me preface by saying what Gandhi had said, that the impossible of yesterday is rapidly becoming the possible of today. So as we talk about peace and nonviolence, it may be possible. So let me begin by covering the 5 threats that are affecting us right now as humankind. As many of you know, that there are 5 interdependent threats that are affecting our survival as well as our well-being. And these things affect us at the individual level, the family, the community, the national, the international, and also the global level. First is, as you know, the violence and militarization that kills and continues to kill, the genocide and the nuclear threats. Secondly is the poverty, as what the Nobel laureates in 1981 called the Holocaust of hunger and malnutrition that continues to be part of our daily lives. And thirdly is the violation of human rights, the denial of dignity to women, children, and to the elderly, people of all faiths and colors and conditions. Then fourthly is the destruction of the environment. It continues to be humankind's war on the planet, and it seems that the planet will inevitably win. And then fifth and lastly is the crisis of greed and selfishness, the denial of the truth that the well-being of each is dependent upon the well-being of all, for the family to the world community. Then moving on, I would like to briefly cover the rise in nonviolent problem-solving alternatives, the positive side of what some of the contributions of women have been. In the midst of the 20th century, we have been filled with lots of violence, global violence. But lots has been done in terms of the global nonviolence. And these I would like to give tribute to the unknown heroes and particularly the heroines of nonviolence. And these people, these unknown, the unspoken names are far more important than the heroes and heroines of violence that are very famous. We need to keep in our hearts and minds these unspoken people. Now, for the ending of violence, women have been very much involved in the abolition of the nuclear weapons, for the ban on the arms trade, and they continue to work to abolish the armies and to also work for the intervention in the killing fields in the various parts of the world. For economic justice, women have been working in the various labor movements, trying to work for the struggle and dignity of life. In human rights, women have been working on the ending of death penalty, to end torture, to obtain trials for all, and to secure the release of nonviolent prisoners of conscience in various prisons. And then for the environmental defense, there has been various nonviolent campaigns in which women has provided the leadership, including for the destruction of nuclear weapons and for the maintenance and the And lastly, women have been working, providing nonviolent alternatives for the problem-solving cooperation. They have been working in various women's movements throughout the world. And historically, women, which constitute more than half of humankind, have not been professional military killers, although regrettably, many are now being recruited into this killing profession. Scholars, including Professor Page from University of Hawaii, who have been working on developing a creative formula of how to bring all these things together. And in a nutshell, it comes down to various elements that I'd like to talk about. First is the spirit. Many in this room can understand that the nonviolent inspiration of all religious faiths and humanist philosophies are at the very core of what is important. That's the first S. The second S is science, the magnitude of knowledge, which includes all of the various sources of knowledge brought together, the natural, the biological, behavioral, social sciences, including the arts and humanities. They constitute the wisdom of everyday life. And then thirdly, the skills, nonviolent kinds of skills in problem solving, which includes individuals, organizations, and society. And then fourthly, just as it's important, is the song, which includes the arts, that we must be able to sing if we are to transform a nonviolent society. So we have spirit, science, skills, and song. But added to that, the 4 S's will need institutions, nonviolent institutions, which will constitute both private and public, formal and informal, which are very much part, an important integration of what we need to create. And then lastly, we need the resources, both human and material resources. And when I talk about human resources, I would particularly like to emphasize the leadership that women can provide and continue to provide. So these things are a little formula that when you put it down, it comes out to be S to the 4th power times I for institution, R for resources, equal a nonviolent NV 21st century, which is what I would like to urge you as what we're trying to do. Now, the challenge of it is to bring those things to fruition. And how that is to happen lies in the hands of women to provide the leadership for nonviolent social change. And briefly, I would like to offer some ways concretely that we can do this. And in the workshop to follow, we'll go more into detail. But first of all, I would like to mention about one initiative in which women can be involved with, and that is the appeal of the Nobel Peace Prize laureates, which include men as well as women, in which they are calling for a creation of a nonviolent culture for the children of the world. And they say that the violence takes many forms, and that we wish to reduce the suffering of the children. We believe that each child can discover for himself or herself that violence is not inevitable, that we can offer hope, not only to the children of the world, but to all humanity by beginning to create and build a new culture of nonviolence. And so these Nobel laureates are taking the lead and asking the global community, including the United Nations, to become a part of that. Then secondly, a more direct way that we can become involved in the transformation is by ourselves. Each of you sitting here comes with a message, a moral message that is conveyed through our living. And so, as Gandhi and others have said, that our life is our message. And then thirdly, each of you here are teachers. In your teaching, you convey the stories, the many different stories that have been taught to you from your mothers and in your various traditions. And through those stories, they convey the values that can be transmitted to other people. And then lastly, it's the way we communicate. It's how we use the different forms of communication and how we utilize our creativity, our imagination, and hope. Let me conclude by sharing a story of a young girl who lives in Colombia in South America. And in that country, there is a prison that is very oppressive. And one of the rules in that prison, among many, does not allow the having of a picture of any flower or any butterfly or any birds. That is forbidden. But this young girl, who's about 12 years old, wanting to see someone in the prison, did not know this. So she took out a piece of paper and drew a picture of a wonderful, beautiful butterfly and took this picture and went to the prison. There, as soon as she approached the prison, they confiscated that picture. And so she went to see her friend and said, I brought you this beautiful picture of this butterfly, but they would not allow me to bring it. So the next time she went to visit her friend, she drew another picture. She drew a tree. Trees are allowed. But in the tree, she had little round circles. So she presented this to her friend and said, this is for you. I wanted to bring you joy and hope. And the man looked at the picture and said, oh, this is a nice tree. What are these round things? And she said, shh, and whispered in his ear, don't you see the eyes? See the eyes? Those are the eyes of the birds. I have the birds for you to bring you joy. So in the spirit of this young girl, I would like to urge all of you to join together. Let us remember that we are all sisters and that there may be many restrictions placed upon us by the government, by religious order, a variety of things, but that we can go beyond that with our hope and our imaginations. For we are all sisters joining together in our unity and finding strength in our diversity to transform our world by creating a non-violent, loving global community. Thank you.
Friends, I'm very, very happy to be here, and I consider it a great honor to have the opportunity to share some of the work that I've been doing in the United States and a little bit outside the United States in the area of violence against women and children. I am the first thing I want to say is that I'm very, very impressed and hold great respect for all of the women who are here. I think that the conference organizers, Hima and Norma and Lekshay, have done, along with all the rest of the women whose names I don't know, have done such a wonderful job of providing this environment and a place for all of us from so many different countries to come together. I think it's quite remarkable that we could all do this, because I think that very often it's difficult for people from many different countries to come together and work together the way we have been doing. I also have great respect and awe for all of the women here and not here, because we all continue. I feel very moved by this. I think we all continue to talk about the great resilience and the great strength that we as women have, and the ways that we have been able, in the face, thank you, good, thank you, in the face of great adversity, to continue to try to be the peacemakers. Luan, I think, started it off very well this afternoon. I really appreciate your words to get us started in thinking about the issue of the violence that is present in the world, and particularly against women and children. And I think also this morning we heard some very important testimonies from the nuns from different countries about the great struggles and continued perseverance in trying to increase the status of women in Buddhism and to claim the place that is so important for women in Buddhism. I come here as a practitioner of Buddhist meditation, especially Vipassana meditation and a little bit of Zen, and also holding great love and appreciation for the engaged Buddhist perspective, as well as the feminist perspective in my work as a psychologist. So I want you to know that this is where I will be coming from today as I do a little bit of sharing and inviting us all to share. I really find that my grounding in Buddhist practice and in feminism and theory and practice offer great meaning for me in my own life and an important foundation for my work with women. And I imagine that that is something that many or most of us share since we're here together. I wanted to say one more thing before I move into the content. I also really just wanted to say that I feel very strongly, as has been suggested by the engaged Buddhist teachings, as well as the feminist teachings and practice, that it's very, very important that knowledge and experience go together, that they are not separate, and that we cannot have one without the other. I really appreciated Venerable Wangmo's statement this morning when she said, "Without practice, knowledge is like a donkey with a load of books." I think it really makes sense and had a great deal of meaning for me. I also really agreed with, this has been my experience, we have a great deal to learn from women outside of our particular context. I feel in the work that I've done, for example, just most recently in Thailand, together with Awiporn Kunkau, that I have really learned much more about how to apply in many contexts and work with people, how to use a grassroots model to be able to affect change. So in my small circle in my hometown and in my circle of colleagues, we have a tradition of saying that we would like to thank everyone who is doing this work, because it takes all of us working together. And I would like to say that I appreciate all of the work that I know is already happening. When I talk today, I have a feeling that most of what I'm saying, many people already know. And so I think I will just put a few words to what people already have experienced themselves. And then I want to invite some comments from two of the Cambodian sisters who are here, as well as perhaps some other women in the group if we have time. I'm checking my clock. This is the handout, and I'm not going to go into great detail. I think it's a little bit more than, it's about a month's worth of talking. But just so you have it, and if you have any questions or things you want to know more about, we can talk later or you can write. I have my name at the bottom. First of all, you can see on the first page just a comment that says that people, when we think about violence against women, we're really thinking about, we need to really consider, in our experience, looking from a variety of perspectives, that from a feminist and I think also an engaged Buddhist perspective, that we look at these experiences from the place in which we stand, that we know that each person has our own particular experience of of the world, and that when we are helping people, it's very important to be able to try as hard as we can to understand the other perspective rather than trying to look at it from our own point of view. So that's one of the foundations of this way of thinking. When I work with women who have experienced violence, and I'm going to speak from my experience, and then others can take from this what makes sense, because I realize it won't apply to everyone. It will only be some parts. What I tend to find is that as our Cambodian sisters, and from others, I think our Sri Lankan sisters mentioned this a little bit also, that there also are the situations of this ongoing exposure to violence where people tend to get one thing after another without a lot of rest in between. We also find that violence can take the form of a trusted person who actually betrays the woman or the child in some way. For example, I think 2 days from now, there will be the topic of sexual misconduct by teachers. And that would be an example of betrayal trauma, when someone we trust not only commits some kind of act of violence, but then, of course, doesn't take responsibility for it. And that's a very difficult form of violence to deal with. There's also sexism, which is something we're very concerned about, of course, and have been talking about. Homophobia, classism, spiritual oppression, and anti-Semitism are all everyday forms of violence against women that I think really, and people in general, that really can be very wearing, can wear us down. Very often when we see that violence, someone has experienced violence, a woman has experienced violence, we find that we are dealing with the issue which many of you have probably already heard of or are working in, the area of post-traumatic stress disorder. And I think there are many women that we come in contact with in our work, whether we're a lay person or a nun, who that we see these women and perhaps children who have some very specific problems as a result of the violence that they've experienced. I've tried to just talk about a few of the different kinds of things, impacts of violence. I think many of us in the room know about those, but just to say a few that I think are very important for us as we think about what would be a good thing to do to help women who've experienced violence is, first of all, to think about the idea that when we're talking about violence against women in particular, that we have a whole structure, a whole institutional structure, a government structure, a political and social structure that really seems to, in many, many countries, from what I've heard from my sisters around the world, as well as in the United States, this system supports violence against women, first of all, makes it easy, makes it possible for violence to be done to women and that there not be any consequences for it, or very few consequences. And so when we think about working with women, one of the things that's very important we have found in our own context for helping to work with women is to help them understand that it is not just about the violence that was done to me personally. It's also the fact that the society supports that violence, makes it possible for it to continue. If we can help the women we work with understand this, it makes it less likely that they will take that to be a very personal situation. It's easier for the women to say, oh, it's not because I somehow didn't do something right, or it's just something that happens to me. It helps to be able to see that it's a much larger issue, and that part of the solution is not only to work with that woman individually, but to help her to also try to do some things very often to change her society, so that to empower her to change her society so that the violence will actually end. The other thing I want to just mention is that is very, very important. It's very important for women to be able to tell their stories. Often there is a silence around violence, as we know. When something bad happens to someone, we don't want to talk about it. And we just experienced that in Thailand just recently. Awiporn and I were there doing a workshop, and the women there in that group said, we're very relieved to get to talk about this, because usually we don't talk about these kinds of things. And to have witnesses is very, very important, and to break the isolation that often happens when we have violence that has been done to us. One of the things we often do is we pull away from other people, or we feel shame about it, and then we don't make our connections. Last point, and then I want to ask for Kim Ling and a couple of women to come. Activism for many women can be a very helpful way to help them feel more empowered. And to do some things to not only break their own silence, but to change the society. And I have asked a couple of our Cambodian sisters if they would be willing to just say something. Kim Ling, who will tell us her name further when she comes up, has been very involved in starting the Peace March here in Cambodia. And I understand that has been a very helpful thing for many of the women who have participated in helping them in their healing process. So it's not only about the changes, but also how can this be a healing for people who participate. So I'd like to invite Kim Ling and Heike and Sipon to come, please. And then if we have a couple of minutes at the end, perhaps there may be other women who would like to also say something about this.
Nhóm xôm cơ rộp đào đồn chi hay nâng lộc sài tầng ớt from tầng nhiều chiết nâng an trạ chiết chế tì cơ rộp đà miền bát miền là tì đi.
Venerable sisters, Silamatas, dear international and national friends, ladies and gentlemen.
ថ្ងៃនេះនាងខ្ញុំមានកិត្តិយស
Opportunity to speak for 5 minutes to you, and I'm very thankful to having you.
ដោយនាងខ្ញុំជាស្ត្រីម្នាក់រស់នៅក្នុងសង្គមមួយពោពេញទៅដោយសង្គ្រាមកន្លងមកជាង2ទសវត្សរ៍មកហើយនេះគឺស្ត្រីមិនថាចំពោះនាងខ្ញុំហើយក៏ដូចជាស្ត្រីដទៃទៀតទូទាំងប្រទេសកម្ពុជាយើងនេះដែលរងគ្រោះដោយសារសង្គ្រាមមួយចំនួនធំហើយបន្តមកទៀតស្ត្រីក៏បានជួបនឹងការគៀបសង្កត់ពីសង្គមមួយទៀតដែលពោពេញទៅដោយការរំលោភបំពានកេងប្រវ័ញ្ចមកលើស្ត្រី
I'm a member of a society which was affected by war and civil war also. So I'm personally a victim situation affect their life, but also patriarchal oppression is still affecting our possibilities to develop our skills.
ក្រៅពីការរំលោភបំពានពីសង្គមធំមកដោយនៅសល់សង្គមគ្រួសារតូចចំពោះស្ត្រីដែលមានស្វាមីភរិយាហើយមានបុត្រធីតានៅជាមួយនឹងស្វាមីនោះតែងតែធ្វើទុកបុកម្នេញដល់ស្ត្រីរងគ្រោះចិញ្ចឹមបុត្រធីតាដោយខ្លួនឯងមានផ្ទៃពោះដោយខ្លួនឯងហើយបរោះគិតតែដើរលេងសប្បាយហើយមកវិញផឹកស៊ីស្វឹងធ្វើបាបស្ត្រីត្រង់នេះហើយដែលស្ត្រីរងគ្រោះច្រើនថ្នាក់ក៏មកលើស្ត្រីតែម្នាក់
So let me now refer to the micro social system. This is the family. Also the family is of course affected by this situation, and we as women have to carry a high responsibility. We are the ones who have to take care of the children, to give them education. The men are going around very often. They come home drunken. They spend the money which they sometimes do not even earn, and then they come home full of anger, and then they even start beating the women. This is very unjust as a society, and we have to make sure that the families are taken care of, so that the children receive at least some love and education.
គ្រប់អំពើហិង្សាគ្រប់អំពើរំលោភបំពានសពបែបយ៉ាងដែលស្ត្រីមានឱកាសពេលណាគឺនាងខ្ញុំចូលរួមសកម្មភាពដើម្បីជួយសង្គមស្ត្រីឲ្យបានងើបឈរឡើងចារហូតមក
Out of this experience, I have been starting to be active since 1977 to address the situation in a very individual way, because the situation had been changed, and I have had to address this problems in many different ways. So it was of course my aim to overcome my own suffering, but also to help others, because if you can reach to settle your immediate problems in your own family, but you see your neighbor who are still in a very bad situation, you also cannot achieve happiness. This also affects your personal life and the life of your children. So it was my personal wish to make other people joining this sort of movement against violence in our society.
ដល់ឆ្នាំ92តែសម្ដេចព្រះមហាឃោសនន្ទព្រះអង្គតែងតែមានប្រតិមេត្តាធម៌ដល់សពសត្វព្រះអង្គក៏បានដឹកនាំក្បួនធម្មយាត្រាដើម្បីស្វែងរកសន្តិភាពជូនឲ្យប្រជាពលរដ្ឋកម្ពុជា
So in 1992, I together with other friends and the most venerable Mahamusananda who started the Dhamma Yatra, we have organized ourselves in the Center of Peace and Reconciliation in Sapolir here in Phnom Penh, and from 92 on we have been conducting the peace march regularly every year.
នៅពេលនោះនាងខ្ញុំក៏មានសេចក្តីរំភើបឥតឧបមាដោយថាសកម្មបំផុតគឺក៏មានគិតពីកំណងកាយនិងចិត្តសូម្បីតែនាងខ្ញុំមានកូន6ដែលនាងខ្ញុំចេញដើរធម្មយាត្រាទាំងប្តីទាំងប្រពន្ធចោលកូនតាំងពីកូនបើខ្ញុំអាយុ 4-5 ឆ្នាំឥឡូវកូនខ្ញុំ 12 ឆ្នាំហើយកូនបើខ្ញុំ
So as you can see it was a very moving at 12 years old. I have been always walking from the very first day until the last day to bring peace to my country, to give this message to the people who are living in these affected areas. And this has given me a lot, but I also had to give a lot to the society and have sometimes also neglecting my own family. I was not thinking about my personal happiness.
ក្នុងគោលបំណងតែមួយគត់គឺដើម្បីជួយដល់ស្ត្រីទាំងអស់ដើម្បីងើបក្រោកឈរឡើងហើយជាគំរូដល់កូនចៅចំនួនក្រោយកុំឲ្យមានការគៀបសង្កត់រំលោភបំពានមកលើស្ត្រី ដូចជាម្ដាយដែលបានទទួលរួចហើយគ្រប់គ្នានេះ
And this all was to free ourselves from the bad situation we are living in, to free the women from oppression, from social oppression, from war, and from patriarchal oppression. Because we want to lay the groundwork for the next generation. We do not want our children to suffer the same.
ហើយសូមឲ្យបំណងប្រាថ្នានៃចិត្តយើងខ្ញុំផ្ទាល់ក៏ដូចជាស្ត្រីទាំងអស់សូមឲ្យបានសន្តិភាពកើតមានឡើងហើយសិទ្ធិសេរីរបស់ស្ត្រីក៏កើតមានឡើងឲ្យពេញលេញទូទាំងពិភពលោកយើង
So in this situation I would like to tell you that I'm ready to join the feminist movement. She did of course not say that it's the feminist movement because the word is not existing, but what she meant is actually the feminist movement.
ហើយសប្តាហ៍ថ្ងៃនេះសូមឲ្យកម្លាំងស្ត្រីយើងរួមគ្នាជាបាច់ដើម្បីរំលប់បំបត្តិនៅភាពហិង្សាទាំងពួងទាំងឡាយដែលធ្វើបាបធ្វើទុកបុកម្នេញមកលើស្ត្រីគ្រប់ប្រភេទហ្នឹងសូមឲ្យកម្លាំងស្ត្រីនឹងក្រោកឈរឡើងរំលប់នៃភាពអស់ទាំងនោះបំបត្តិចោលឲ្យអស់កុំឲ្យមានអំពើហិង្សាមកលើខ្លួនតទៅទៀត
I want to be part of a movement who is trying to abolish violence and oppression of all kinds in all countries of our world, not only in Cambodia.
តែទីបញ្ចប់ខ្ញុំចង់ថាសកម្មភាពដែលស្ត្រីក្រោកឈរឡើងសូមឲ្យក្លាហានបំផុតហើយក្នុងភាពតស៊ូអធន់ដើម្បីឈានរកយកនៅបំណងប្រាថ្នាយើងទាំងអស់គ្នាឲ្យបាន
So I wish that we give strength to each other, so that we support each other, that we motivate each other. It's not only a matter of financial support, it is more this feeling of being supported and having sisters around the world who are doing the same and who are joining us spiritually.
សូមអរគុណ
ខ្ញុំឃើញធម្មយាត្រាមួយមកពីប្រទេសថៃចូលស្រុកខ្មែរខ្ញុំផ្លែកចិត្តខ្ញុំតែខ្ញុំជួបសម្ដេចមហាឃោសននខ្ញុំអត់ស្គាល់ព្រះអង្គខ្ញុំថាលោកតាខ្ញុំសុំទៅផងថាអត់អីទេញោមទៅជាមួយអាត្មាដល់ពេលអញ្ចឹងការដែលខ្ញុំជួបអំពើហិង្សាចំពោះកម្ពុជាតាំងពី75រហូតដល់79ពី79រហូតដល់92គឺខ្ញុំជួបរហូតក្នុងជីវិតរបស់ខ្ញុំ
So I'm a woman from a rural background in Cambodia, from northern Cambodia, from those parts who are mostly affected from civil war after 79. And when I came to know about the movement, which the Venerable Mahavajjananda, whom I didn't know before, when they first time went through the area where I was living in, I immediately found some hope, and from that moment on, I joined and I found a home also and sense in life.
តែឆ្នាំ96នេះខ្ញុំជួយធ្វើការក្នុងធម្មយាត្រា CPR ខ្ញុំបាននៅខាងចែកខត្តប័ណ្ណចំពោះអំពើអហិង្សាទប់ទល់នឹងអំពើហិង្សាក្នុងគ្រួសារក្នុងសហគមន៍ឬក៏ក្នុងខេត្តដែលមានចំនួនខ្ញុំអាចទៅពិភាក្សាដូចជានៅស្រុកពនិតព្រះមានចំនួនលោកសង្ឃនិងលោកសង្ឃដូចថាមានវត្តពីរអញ្ចឹងឆ្លោះគ្នាខ្ញុំអាចទៅពិភាក្សាជាមួយបដិជគុណនឹងជួយសម្របសម្រួលដោយអហិង្សារៀនពីលោកគ្រូចចហើយនិងគ្រូចនជាគ្រូរបស់ខ្ញុំ
Through this experience and through joining this movement, I was given the opportunity to be trained as a counselor and conflict mediation. So from 96 on, I'm now working in the Bailik area, Rajamichai area, to help counseling, to help mediate, to help settle problems in the most affected areas, and you can believe me that the situation there is even worse.
ចាដល់ពេលខែ12នេះខ្ញុំបានទៅស្រុកអំពិលជួបអំពើហិង្សាមួយចំពោះក្រុមខាងនោះក្រុមខាងនេះគេចាប់ផ្ដើមច្បាំងគ្នាខ្ញុំសុំឡានអង្គការអត់មានព្រំដែនជិះទៅចែកខត្តប័ណ្ណហ្នឹងស្រាប់តែគេមានគម្រាមកំហែងខ្ញុំថានេះអញជាប៉ាអីហើយខ្ញុំក៏ហុចខត្តប័ណ្ណរូបមហាឃោសននទៅគេក៏យល់ព្រមអូនេះជាសម្ដេចមហាឃោសននហើយគេក៏បានមើលក្នុងអក្សរហ្នឹងគេថាព្រះពុទ្ធតែងតែបង្រៀនដល់ពុទ្ធបរិស័ទរហូតដល់បច្ចុប្បន្ន80ព្រះវស្សាគេក៏យល់គេក៏ ឈប់មានអំពើហិង្សាក្នុងភូមិនោះដូច្នេះក្រុមទាំងពីរនឹងប្រហែលជាគេយល់នៅក្នុងនឹង
Only recently, I want to give you this example. Only recently, I was involved in a sort of peace talk or peace mediation situation between two fighting groups, and we started to try to convince them about the nonsense, about the real nonsense of fighting each other, and we had then involved the Venerable Mahakusananda to give his arguments also to them, and it helped a lot.
ខ្ញុំក៏បានបញ្យល់គេយ៉ាងច្រើនថាចំពោះធម្មញាត្រានេះដើម្បីតែសន្តិភាពនៅប្រទេសខ្មែរឬក៏នៅក្នុងពិភពលោកយើងទាំងមូលដូច្នេះខ្មែរយើងគួរតែយល់កុំប្រើអំពើហិង្សាយើងត្រូវតែកាត់បន្ថយគាត់ថាគាត់មិនដឹងរកវិធីណាកាត់បន្ថយខ្ញុំបានបញ្យល់គាត់ច្រើននៅក្នុងខត្តប័ណ្ណរបស់សម្ដេចព្រះមហាឃោសនន្ទ
We also tried to paint a broader picture because peace in Cambodia is only one step, and it is a contribution to the peace in the world. And we also wanted to explain why it is important and why it is also a responsibility of Cambodians who fight each other, that this affects the situation in the world, so that it's not only a Cambodian story, it affects the world. So I have tried to give this concept also into the discussions, and the Buddhist teaching and the addresses of Venerable Mahakusananda has helped a lot in making my arguments more senseful and more convincing to the other side.
ហើយមានកងទ័ពម្នាក់គេបាននិយាយថាដូច្នេះសូមឲ្យខត្តប័ណ្ណនឹងចែកទៅដល់ស្រុកស្មាច់នៅខេត្តដល់មានជ័យផងខ្ញុំថាខ្ញុំអត់មានលទ្ធភាពនឹងទៅពីព្រោះឥឡូវគេកំពុងតែច្បាំងគ្នា
So there was one general even who felt that what I had to say was very important, and he wanted me to go to Dominjay to also speak in the same way to others. But unfortunately it was not possible because there was cruel fighting at the moment, so I didn't dare to go.
ចាចឹងខ្ញុំសូមអរគុណច្រើនខ្ញុំនៅមានពាក្យច្រើនតែអស់នាទី
Thank you very much.
Just one final thing that stating the obvious. I think that this is a wonderful and important example of the use of testimony in feminist and Buddhist process to talk about what is going on in the loving hands of people who can provide support, and to think about how to use activism as a part of the healing process. Thank you so much. We've gone over, and thank you very much for allowing us to have a little extra time to really hear from our Cambodian sisters.
Is not here? Should we not arrive? Yes, she's here, but okay.
From Bangladesh, Pritikana Barua.
That is for finished.
Okay. I think Luan want to speak again. Replace Beverly.
That Beverly Lum and I will be co-facilitating a workshop to start in about 10 minutes in this room, where we'll talk about media literacy, storytelling, and how this fits into the peace education. So please join us. So you have a 10-minute break. We're taking a break.
ច្បាប់មួយទៀតដែលយើងបានចេញមួយមកហើយហើយកំពុងបានអនុវត្តសប្តាហ៍នេះគឺច្បាប់ជួញដូរភេទ
Another law was released which addressed the problem of trafficking.
ហើយសប្តាហ៍នេះយើងកំពុងតែធ្វើការកាត់ទោសដល់ស្ត្រីមេបនដែលគាត់បានប្រព្រឹត្តអំពើខុសច្បាប់ដោយសារការចាប់ក្មេងស្រីទៅលក់នោះមានចំនួន45រូប
And through this action 45 women had been brought back out of their prison in which they were sold into. Do crimes, and we can put them in prison, and they have cases to be filed against them in the judicial system.
ហើយយើងខ្ញុំបានក្រុមការងាររបស់យើងខ្ញុំនេះបានចុះធ្វើការងារទៅតាមភូមិទៅដល់ជាពិសេសនៅក្នុងរាជធានីក្តីនៅតាមខេត្តក៏មានមន្ទីរកិច្ចការនារីនៅតាមខេត្តយើងបានចុះធ្វើការងារជាមួយនឹងស្ត្រីដែលជាជនរងគ្រោះហើយនឹងធ្វើការ counseling ជារៀងរាល់ថ្ងៃអង្គារ
So, and to really cover the problem, we have set up liaison offices in provinces and sent counseling groups to the remote areas and to try to really reach out to those women who suffer from violence. And if they see that we take action against those who commit crimes, then it encourages them that they are not only the victim any longer, but somebody at least takes some legal action against them.
ហើយយើងបានបង្រៀនអំពីផ្សព្វផ្សាយអំពីអ្វីដែលហៅថាអំពើហិង្សាក្នុងគ្រួសារឲ្យប្រជាពលរដ្ឋទូទៅគេយល់អំពីផលវិបាករបស់អំពើហិង្សាក្នុងគ្រួសារ
And we are of course doing also some training, some consciousness raising among people, not only among women, about the facts and about the whereabouts of domestic violence, so that people see behind the screen.
ហើយយើងបានធ្វើជារឿងខ្លីៗផ្សាយតាមទូរទស្សន៍និងវិទ្យុ
And of course we are also trying to involve the mass media to raise awareness, like TV and radio programs.
ដើម្បីឲ្យជាពលរដ្ឋយើងយល់ហើយនឹងជាពិសេសទៅទៀតគឺរាជរដ្ឋអាជ្ញាធរដែនដីគ្រប់ជាន់ថ្នាក់ឲ្យគេមានការចាប់អារម្មណ៍ហើយមានព្រោះយើងពីដើមរៀងមកប្រជាពលរដ្ឋខ្មែរយើងតែងតែគិតថាអំពើហិង្សាក្នុងគ្រួសារហ្នឹងជាអំពើហិង្សារបស់គ្រួសារគេទេអ្នកដទៃមិនត្រូវការលូកដៃក្នុងរឿងគ្រួសារគេទេ
And what I would say had changed so far through these activities is that domestic violence is not only considered being a problem of families and limited to the family as seen as a private problem in which we have not to interfere to, but it is seen as a social problem and that we have to help the women who are the victims of that.
ក្រោយពីយើងបានធ្វើការផ្សព្វផ្សាយជាញឹកញាប់មកយើងឃើញថាមានការយល់ដឹងជាច្រើនហើយជាពិសេសទៅទៀតស្ត្រីដែលជាជនរងគ្រោះហ្នឹងមានការភ្ញាក់ខ្លួនឲ្យខ្លួនឯងហ៊ានប្រាប់ការពិតអំពីអំពើហិង្សាក្នុងគ្រួសារមកប្រាប់យើងឲ្យដឹង
And this has helped to empower the women to come out of their houses to address the problem and speak up and speak openly about what happens to them, which is also a big release to them.
ហើយក្នុងនោះយើងបានបញ្ចូលបញ្ហាសាសនាទៅជាមួយដែរគឺថាអ្នកណាសាងអំពើបាបត្រូវតែទទួលអំពើបាប
And we are also trying to bring the Buddhist teaching into this process of awareness raising in saying, if you do crimes, if you do bad, then it is bad for your karma.
ចាដោយសារប្រទេសកម្ពុជាយើងជាប្រទេសដែលកាន់ព្រះពុទ្ធសាសនា
And we do this because most of the population are Buddhist believers.
ហើយមានជំនឿជឿជាក់ទៅលើបាបកម្ម
Yeah, and there is this belief of doing bad, then receiving bad karma, bad rebirth.
សូមអរគុណដែលរយៈពេលខ្លី
Thank you very much. The time is running.
Thank you very much for sharing your struggles and the work that you're doing. I think we are both all of us are enriched by the various stories that we have heard. So now we will proceed with our workshop, and I'd like to call upon Beverly Lum, a noted consultant on media literacy, to join me as we facilitate this section. So Beverly, if you come forward. Now, does everybody have a piece of paper? Did everybody get one of these? Does anybody not have one? Okay.
Oh, sure. Okay.
Okay. All right, well, okay. We have all been listening and we have heard many things. Now we're going to use a different part of our brain, because there's in our hearts and spirit, because we need all those parts to really understand peace, compassion, love. Okay? And if anybody need pens, we've got colored pens, pencils. Can you pass them out too? Okay. Now, as those things are being passed out, let me explain what we will be doing. Okay? Each of you will have a sheet of paper, okay? And you may take it this way or this way, whichever way you'd like to have it. But I'm asking each of you to take a few minutes to draw or write a saying that conveys what I see as compassion, what I see as peace, what I see as love. So if you will draw or write a poem or write a saying and then put your name on it. Then, as we conclude the session before 4 o'clock, we will put all these little images together. Okay? You are now creating your piece, your own individual, because this part of what we're trying to do with the workshop, I want to say, is that we are what we see. We become that which we see. So these are images, these are stories, these are things that you see. So please now take a few minutes to draw these. And this is an example that Beverly has done of what she sees as peace, compassion, and love. Okay? No, you don't have to. So we now ask you to do that.